Hey guys, welcome back to another session in the Lumix Lounge. We're here at WPPI 2015 in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm sitting on stage with Mr. Sal Cincotta and Taylor Cincotta. Hey guys, how you doing?
Hello. How's it going, man? Thanks for having us.
It's going good. I've been looking forward to this interview all day because it's purely personal, because I want to talk business with you guys.
Nice.
And rumor has it you know about business.
I know one or two things about business.
You own 2 or 3 of them, right?
Yes.
Or
6. Yeah.
6 or 7, you know.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So what's the constellation of businesses that you guys are operating?
So it wouldn't be fair to talk about business without talking about my probation. So I was in I was in business probation back in 2013, and then I couldn't start any new businesses. And that actually, Taylor will agree, she will never do that again, because when 2014 hit, I launched like 5 new businesses that have been
painful.
just sitting there waiting to be launched. So that'll never happen again. No, we've got several businesses in the photography industry. I consider myself a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
As artists, as photographers, we love to create. And create images is one thing, but I actually love to create businesses, and I love to tinker with them. You know, hey, if we run this special or do this thing or change this color, what will the response be? You know,
Love that.
and
Yeah.
that is my
The marketing
kind of
piece of it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, if I change this color on this button, 30% more people clicked on it.
Yeah.
Okay, do more of that.
Yeah. And that is what I think motivates me. And a lot of people do ask me, like, why do you do what you do?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a part of me that is so freaking competitive.
Yeah.
You know, I played high school football, college football, and so that athlete mentality is there. And it's like,
I got that somehow.
Yeah.
I got that. Yeah.
I'm a little competitive,
Yeah.
to say the least.
So what are these businesses? There's a magazine, there's a trade show, there's a portrait studio.
Yeah, we'll say this all started with what I'll call Salvatore Cincotta photography, right? So I started just like everyone else as a photographer back in 2007. I worked for Microsoft for about 10 years. So that's kind of my corporate pedigree.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I said, hey, I don't want to work in corporate anymore. I want to work for myself.
Yeah.
And so I quit my job, full-time photographer, 2007. By about 2009, our studio was grossing $1 million in sales every year,
Nice.
just photography.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden we got thrust into this national stage for, okay, here's the beacon for success. If they can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
And then that spurred all these other photography businesses, if you will. That was never, when I look back to 2007, Taylor can attest to this, I never had in my vision, I want to own photography businesses. I want to be a speaker. Most people don't know this about me. I actually hate being on stage.
He's just
Really?
really good at it.
Yeah,
Really?
it's I'm good at it. I accept that, but I would much rather be in my hotel room drinking a cup of Starbucks, checking email. That's
Do you get nervous when you get on stage?
I don't get nervous. I just don't like everybody looking at me.
Yeah.
And that's
Can you guys avert your eyes for a minute?
Everybody look away. And so, you know, obviously when you get on stage, you have to deal with some of that. But, you know, my true passion comes from, especially in the photography side, is knowing we're helping make a difference in people's lives. When people come up to me and they're like, hey man, because of you, I'm making more money. Because of you, I'm providing more for my family. Or I quit my job. That's actually what gets me motivated.
Yeah. So you guys, so Taylor, what's your position in the overall kingdom? What are you doing?
So, in the kingdom, it's managing the king.
Yeah.
That's a full-time job.
And I am managed, that's for sure.
I run our photography studio, so I shoot as well. So Sal shoots his own weddings, I shoot mine.
Oh, good.
I'm
Okay.
usually the better one. And then I do all of
See what I gotta
that was
deal with?
serious.
I love that. That's awesome.
She actually says that to clients.
I
Like she'll
do.
be sitting in a sales consultation and I'll hear her. She'll be like, you can book either one of us. We're both open, but I'm the better photographer. I'm like, all right,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Tell it like it is.
I tell it like it is,
exactly.
that's right. I run sales for our photography studio, and then I also help Sal with running Shutter Magazine and advertisers and Shutterfest. So all of our team, we kind of dip a little bit into everything, so we all work together on a lot of stuff, but we typically have one point person for each kind of brand or project going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
The 1-2 punch. Right?
Yeah, it's really been an interesting project to work on together, grow together, and you know, just see what happens when you put your mind to something. I mean, it's being an entrepreneur today it's not easy, but it sure as hell is exciting.
Yeah.
And the people who are out there who are going, there's no money, clients don't want to spend money. If you're saying that, then it really comes back to you. You're not doing a good job of being a business person.
Yeah.
And make no mistake, being a successful photographer is not tied to being a good photographer.
Right.
Being a successful photographer means you understand business. And I would say, you know, of 100% of my time, 10% is spent shooting. 90% is spent sucked into the business.
Like building the business.
Yeah, you got to market, you got to advertise, you got to do all these other things. You got to network, and then when I get to shoot on a weekend, I'm like, this is amazing.
Right? You're like, how does this thing work?
Yeah, no spreadsheets, no business, no marketing. I just get to go out and create every day. So I feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the world.
So Taylor, speaking of being the luckiest guy in the world, Taylor, how do you keep a control on this guy so that he's not spinning off new businesses and, you know?
I don't.
So you just let him go. Go do it.
Yeah.
She tried in 2013, and then she's just like, screw it. Whatever.
Just go with the flow?
We've established what we call no-fly zones for pretty much everyone on our team. So my no-fly zone is putting a harness on Sal. So we've accepted that Sal is the creative genius, the king of our kingdom.
Yeah.
He's our leader. He directs us where we're going to go in the future.
Yeah.
Don't say anything.
I have to say something because this conversation never happens. Like behind closed doors, I'm an idiot.
It's never going to happen again either.
Yeah, we're filming this, right?
Yeah,
Somewhere?
yeah.
Okay.
It'll be on YouTube, Taylor, so whatever you say, Kenan, we'll be held against you.
Rewind.
Yeah, this does not happen in real life. Real life is more like, I have this amazing idea, and then it's more like my team jumps on it, and they're like, you're an idiot. We're not doing that.
I love it. All right, let's switch gears. We're going to talk about your trade show, Shutterfest, right?
Yes.
So there's a lot of trade shows out there. We're at one.
Right.
We saw each other in Nashville, at Imaging USA. There's Photo Plus, all these trade shows targeted at photographers today.
Right.
Right. Why do we need another one? And what does yours bring to the table different?
Yeah, so here's the deal. I consider myself not only a photographer, I'm an active photographer. Most people know that. We're still shooting, so I want education.
Yep.
So I can see it from the consumer side. And then there's the part of it where, as a promoter of an event, I see it from both sides. And here's my thing. Nothing against the WPPIs or the Imagings of the world. I'm starting to feel like trade show first, education second.
Yeah.
And what I think they're starting to miss is today's photographer, understanding your client. Today's photographer, today's studio is not like the photographer of 10, 15 years ago, right? 10, 15 years ago, you had to have like a science degree to understand, right, light fall off and lighting ratios and all these other things.
Yep.
Today's photographer grabs their camera, they take their picture, and they're like, oh my God, you're a photographer, right? And so they have no skills. They don't know how to light. They're natural light photographers.
Yeah, with the quote fingers.
You got to put the quotes there. And so they don't understand any of this stuff. And so that's where I said there's got to be a better way to educate today's photographers.
Yep.
Enter Shutterfest.
Yeah.
Shutterfest is all about being hands-on. So imagine going to a conference where you don't pay extra for shooting classes, where instead shooting classes are actually what we expect you to do. So Shutterfest has over 200 models that are there for you to use and work with free of charge. Wow. So that's where Shutterfest is. We did Shutterfest last year. It sold out in 2.5 hours. Wow. Shutterfest this year, it's sold out again. And so we feel like we are really on to something. And that's what Shutter Magazine is about too, right? Yeah. Again, I don't want to ding all these other companies, but when I pick up a magazine or a book, and I read these things that are now shrinking, and I read it, I'm reading about, it's almost like a biography, right? I read these books and it's like, when Susie was a little girl, she chased rainbows and unicorns, and now she's a photographer. Who gives a crap? What did I learn out of that, right? So Shutter Magazine is meant so that when you put this thing down, right, it's 200 pages every month. When you put that down, you go, holy crap, I actually learned something out of that. And that's why this was born out of necessity.
Now, is Shutter Magazine the other sort of function of it to drive traffic to the trade show, or is it a whole business by itself?
Each of these businesses, they're businesses by themselves. Okay. Each one was born out of necessity. So Shutter Magazine came first. We have over 100,000 subscribers today. This came first, and then all of a sudden we were getting more and more pressure put on us to go, hey, you should really have a conference. And so last year was the first year that we had our conference, and then this year we're going into our second one. So
that's crazy. Taylor, so managing a magazine like this, or overseeing this thing, some people would say, print? You guys are going into print?
Yep.
It's all about pixels. Why are you doing print? What's up with that? So why the decision to go into print, and how is it operating a business like that?
You want me to answer? You got it?
I'll get part of it. We're photographers, and as photographers, what do we live to see? To see our pictures hanging on a wall. Yeah. This is our picture on the wall.
Yeah, and she nailed it. I mean, that was what it came down to, and you're 100% right. Yeah. All these magazines we're watching are shrinking and shrinking, and because it's expensive, and it is, man. And this is fine art quality, right? This is like
That does not look like a cheap magazine.
No, it's not a cheap magazine.
It feels like National Geographic quality.
And that's what we want to do. I said, if we're going to put our name on something, if we're going to put it out there, it's got to represent quality.
Yeah.
And every dime every dime somebody pays for a subscription actually went back into producing this. And I wanted to give photographers their opportunity to get published in a magazine and feel like, man, this is something of substance.
The empire is growing. Look at that. Okay, so speaking of the empire, the studio, that's the other leg of the tripod, right? So you guys are operating, and Taylor, you're managing the studio.
Pretty much,
And Sal, you're shooting in the studio. You're both shooting.
Yes.
Right? Okay, so tell me about that. So, and when do you find time to... when do you find time to actually be in the studio?
You know, I talk to a lot of people, and I'm like, how's it going? And they're like, I'm busy. And I want to punch them in the face. Because
exactly.
You're not busy. I work 18 to 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
It's exhausting for me and the team. And my mindset right now is I've convinced myself, and mostly Taylor through drugs, to believe that this is a 5-year journey, right? So I've convinced myself I'm gonna bust my ass for 18 to 20 hours a day for the next 5+ years to build something that will be bigger than me.
Yes.
Because look, I don't want to be 65, 70 years old laying on the middle of the street shooting a wedding.
Yeah.
But I do love being a photographer, and so. We could have stopped shooting a long time ago, but I don't. And this is my biggest pet peeve with our industry.
Yeah.
For the last 5+ years, the industry has created this kind of rock star mentality where we elevate these people to a point of just ignorance, right? It's like, you're not a rock star. You're a photographer. Get that through your head.
Right.
Okay. We have the best job in the world, by the way, because every day I get to do what I love.
Yeah.
But if you want to be an educator, you should hold yourself to a certain bar, and that bar is I will continue to educate as long as I have something intelligent to say. The minute I get on that stage and start talking business advice, but I don't really run a business, it's time for me to shut up.
Yeah.
And that's
you're
my
not
pet
relevant
peeve.
anymore.
Yeah, you're not relevant.
Yeah. Now, what about you're shooting, right? And how many weddings are you shooting now? Because you clearly have a lot of spare time, right? So
in all my spare time. We do, rewind 3 years ago, I did over 55 weddings. And so Taylor talked me into backing off that a little bit, and I listened a little bit.
Yeah.
So now we're consistently shooting 35 to 45 weddings, and it's only me and Taylor. So
and I'm still working on that number.
Yeah, she
you
wants
get it down to 20.
Yeah, she wants it down to 20. It's not going to happen.
Wow.
So we're still actively shooting. I love every minute of it. Every time I get to go out there and do cool stuff, it's a lot of fun.
Again, it keeps you relevant, right?
Yeah.
You're hitting the walls that your students are going to hit, and you're solving them, and you can educate.
When I get on stage and I'm like, hey, here's a new marketing idea, that I've vetted it, I've tried it, it works. Or if I say this doesn't work, I've tried it too.
Yeah. So let's talk workflow. So you guys, you're shooting those 65 weddings, 50, you're out there, you get these weddings into the studio. What happens then? How do you ingest the images? How do you share them out? What's that process?
Yeah, so, we talked about no-fly zones.
That's
Taylor,
my no-fly zone.
That's our no-fly zone. We keep her away.
I'm done with that?
Nope, don't know anything
She's like,
about
here's
it,
the memory cards, do whatever you want. You got to do with them.
Nice.
So the first thing we do is we'll take, a typical wedding is 3,000 to 4,000 images, 2 photographers. We'll take those images immediately that night, download them. Tech hard drive, so everything's kind of rated out, multiple drives. We back it up to a secondary drive, so it's always in 2 spots. Then we outsource that. We own a company called Evolve Edits, which does all the post-production work for the images. Because as a photographer, you're wasting your time. Color correction. Color correcting is
image.
It's monkey work, man. It's like it's not artistic. Let it go. Let somebody else do it. So we let go of that. 2 weeks later, our clients are coming in and they are seeing 800 images fully edited, and that leads to monster sales because 2 weeks after the wedding, they have money.
So
right?
you're showing the client 800 images.
Fully edited.
Fully edited images.
Yeah, 2 weeks later.
Wow.
And that's something we pride ourselves in. It's something I use as a competitive advantage. Yeah. So imagine being at a bridal show and now you're meeting with your clients and you're saying to them, okay, hey guys, I know I'm a little bit more expensive because we are one of the most expensive studios in St. Louis. And
give me a number. What does that mean? In St. Louis.
Yeah, in St. Louis. So the average client spends about $10,000 to $15,000 with us in our studio. And that's a pretty big number. Like you can be in LA, and maybe that number doesn't sound too big, but when you're in blue-collar America, that is a monster number.
No, that's a big number any place on this particular solar system.
I'm not complaining. But now I can have a conversation with a bride, and I can go, one of the things that allow us to stand out from the crowd is we will have your images ready in 2 weeks. And I'll say to her, talk to any of your bridesmaids who've been married recently. Ask them how long it took to get their images. And it's horror story after horror story. So just that little nudge, if you will, in the sales process gets it there. And so that's just one of the things we do to stand out from the crowd. Now they come in, they see 800 images, and now they're adding upgrades to their albums, adding extra pages to their albums.
This is all happening in the studio.
All in the studio. You've got to bring them in.
All that 9 yards, wine on the table, clients there.
Exactly. It's all about the experience, you know. And I always talk about Louis Vuitton. That's who we use for, you know, kind of our benchmark. It's like, what's it like when you go into a Louis Vuitton? And if you've never been, I highly encourage you to go to one.
And take me with you.
Yeah, and take Taylor. She'd like that. But that's you've got to think about what's the difference between you and every photographer out there. It's not the gear. I mean, they've got better and better gear coming out. I've been at weddings where the photographers have the same freaking equipment I have. I was at a wedding recently, and one of the guests had a 7200 2.8 lens and a 1DX camera. I was like, what are you doing with that camera? Everything's in auto, and they don't know what they're doing. But so it's not the gear, right? It can't be the gear. And you've got to figure out what's the difference between you and everyone else.
Right. And so brass tacks for photographers that are watching this, okay, they're like, yeah, I want to do that. How do I move in the direction that you're moving in? And should they? Like, should photographers say, okay, my holy grail is to have a portfolio of businesses, and, you know, because I want to be there. I'm going to start my own trade show, and it's going to be all about this, you know.
Yeah, more power to you, man.
Should they do that? Or should they, you know, okay, I'm just going to be the best photographer I can be and build my little niche business in my city?
Yeah, I mean, look, I get stopped by people all the time, and it's very humbling. It's very awesome to see people want to model they want to go, hey, I want to be a speaker. Hey, I want to start other companies in the industry. Hey, God bless, man. Go for it if you can do it. But before you do that, do one thing right. Don't get sucked into all of this madness. Do one thing right. Run your business right. And that will naturally and organically lead to these other opportunities. It's like I said when we started, there was never a bone in my body who said, I want to be a publisher of a magazine. That never happened. But it just happened, you know. And
organically.
Organically, yeah.
And you let it happen, Taylor.
I pushed him.
It's all her fault.
You made it happen.
I did.
I love this. Okay, so let's close up. I wanted to ask you guys, and I heard a rumor that you guys are using some software on the back end, like Mylio, to kind of distribute your images around. How's that working for you?
So
they're new. They just launched last year, I think.
Yeah, they just launched it in November-ish time frame. I saw them for the first time in New York. And for any photographers out there, if you haven't looked at Mylio, look them up. They have a really, really interesting product and I think value proposition. And there's two ways this product can go. It can be consumer-facing, where you're giving it to your brides, you're giving it to your clients, or it can be pro-facing, which is obviously us. And so imagine today your workflow. You go home, you got to download everything in the Lightroom, and then you're on the road for whatever reason, or you're at home. You're not bringing your hard drives with you every place you go and operating in that way. And Mylio has this incredible platform, this replication platform that allows you to get all your images in there, and they sync up on every device you have. Your iPhone, your iPad, your computer. I can now imagine sitting there with your iPad while you're just sitting in bed, so you don't get yelled at by the wife, right, that you're working too late. And you're watching the movie, and you just keep saying, whatever she says, you just keep saying that.
She's selling on yourself.
I'm so screwed later, you know? I just say random shit. Okay, but imagine you're going through it, and you're 5-star in pictures, you're 3-star in pictures, right? All from your iPad. Okay, this is what they're bringing to the table for us as pros. But let's take it a step further. Now, who's our biggest competitor today? I don't know what you think. I think like the iPhone, right? So if I take this, my bride's coming down the aisle. I've got all the guests start stepping in the aisle. They're taking these pictures, right? But here's why it's the challenge, right? Clearly, my camera's better than their camera, but that's not what it's about anymore. The bride is seeing the picture of her first kiss before I can even get home and download it, right? And it's losing that impact. So we have to compete with today's market. Who is the client of not today, of next year, 2 years, 3 years from now? Those are the kids who are glued into their phone. They're not talking on the phone. They're texting. They're Snapchatting, whatever they're doing. We've got to think like that. And from that perspective, that's what I like about Mylio. I can now go in. Imagine if I show my bride this beautiful wood case. And in that wood case, she opens it up, and there's an iPad in there. And now I say to her, look, after your wedding, okay, within 2 days of your wedding, I'm going to deliver this iPad to you with your Mylio account that's going to have all your pictures from your wedding, and you can actually select your own images for your album. And the minute you select them, those images that have been selected are reflected back in my studio immediately. Instantly.
That's cool.
And so that's
cool.
just like, I'm just getting started with this thing, right? So if you talk to me in like 2 months, how I'm using the product will continue to evolve because we are running an active studio. And so they are really, really on to something with this product.
That's really interesting. And, you know, a lot of companies have tried and failed at that sync thing, right? To get them, you have the different set of images on this thing, or this, can't put raw files over here. And from what I understand, they solved that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah.
You're not going to put raw files sync down to your phone, right?
Yeah. So just so everybody understands, you could have your raw files on your computer. You can have a low-res JPEG on your iPhone, right? And you could even have the raw file on your iPad if you wanted to, but that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And so the sync engine is controlling what images are going where and at what resolution.
Yep.
Now, the reality is, you understand, you're working with raw files, you're dealing with XML data.
Yep.
So I can in theory, convert that image to black and white on my iPad, and immediately back at my studio where my images are, that's being converted to black and white instantaneously. Yeah. And I'm not advocating that. I'm not advocating that this is the next Lightroom, but it is going to change the way I work in my studio from a workflow perspective.
And I wonder how that fits in with, Apple just released Photos, the new Photos app, or at least they give us a preview of what it's going to be.
Right.
Is this similar? Because they're touting that whole idea too, that it's going to sync across all your Mac devices. But from what I understand with Mylio, it's going everywhere. It's going on Android, it's Mac, PC.
Right. Yeah. But even with what Apple's advocating, it's still different. Here's the thing. Through the Apple ecosystem, it's good for me, right? Me, my devices. What Mylio is doing is allowing me to create an account that's good for, let's say you're my client. It's just me and you. Yeah. You're not seeing every image I've taken. You're only seeing our images that I've taken for you. Yeah. And so I think that's an important piece to understand and how that's all going to work. And I'm sure there's other subtle differences. But that, to me, is starting to become the future. And then again, I'm thinking like a business guy, right? So, you look at Mylio and you're like, oh, dials, widgets, buttons, right? And it's cool. Slow down.
Right.
How is this going to, is it going to help you save time? Yes. Is it going to help you make more money? Yes. And the way it's going to help you make more money is you're going to go meet with your bride and groom. You're going to put this in front of them, and they're going to go, holy crap, I've never seen anything like that before. Right.
Yes,
every time I can get them.
Surprise and delight the client, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's marketing. That's the marketing side of you coming in.
Yes.
Yeah. So what's next for you guys? What are you doing next? I know Shutterfest is coming, so that's on the radar. But
I'm afraid to ask.
What business are you hatching next?
I am, I don't know, man. It's, I got a lot of ideas floating around in my head.
You can build phones, all kinds of stuff.
Is this interview over?
The Sal phone.
What little sliver of time you had is gone.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
For me, we're about to launch something called the School of Photography. Yeah. Again, it's coming from my frustration with education. Here's what I've realized. I've been on Creative Live. I've been teaching at, platform speaker. I educate people. They buy in. They drink the Kool-Aid. They're like, I'm going to go do it. Rah, rah, rah.
Yeah.
Whew, I'm kind of tired, right? And they go home, and I'm not holding them accountable. And so what the School of Photography is going to be is online learning, 90-day courses where every week you have homework. Every week you're reporting back. I'm going to do a portfolio review. I'm going to do a website review. It's just like taking a college course.
So you're actually going to go in there, so it's not an automated course.
No. That's my biggest pet peeve.
It's hands-on, where you're going to go in there and say, hey, Frederick, this was good, but
that's right.
You should try to focus.
That's right. Yeah, we're using a platform from Adobe, and we're working with them, and this is going to be live. So I'm going to be teaching live, and it'll be recorded, so if you're working and you can't get to it, that's fine. Yeah. But imagine a learning system now, online for photographers, where you got a question, you can actually raise your hand in the chat room, and now I can go, Bob, what are you having trouble with here? Again, just like a college course. Yeah. And I think if we can start holding photographers accountable, forcing them to move forward through the life cycle of learning, it's going to change education again. And I want to be on the forefront of that.
We want to be educating from the ground up. And I think a lot of the problem you see today is photographers, they get into their craft and then they realize, I don't know how to make money. I don't know anything about business. Yeah. And we're catching them at that point when they realize it. But now by offering education like this from the get-go, we can catch them from the beginning before they start their studio, and hopefully they learn the right way from the beginning.
Yeah, that's exactly. And, we talked about that before on, actually at Brooks Institute. We were talking about the whole idea that that's where most students fall down at. You can be the best artist in the world, and you have this vision, you have your look, and you understand your gear, and then the money thing starts, and now you're at Starbucks.
But here's the thing. Here's what I think a lot of companies miss, and I'll lump every company at this trade show into this. It all starts with education.
Yeah.
If you educate somebody and show them how to make money, then they have money to buy the stuff we're selling them.
Right.
You can't buy stuff if you can't get blood from a stone, right?
Right.
And so my mindset now is and this isn't a play to like, oh, if I teach them, I'll make more money. Yeah. But it's just changing your mindset. If you teach all these newbies that are coming into the market who got a camera, somebody told them they're a great photographer, if you teach them how to actually make money, they'll be loyal to you. And once they're loyal to your brand, you never
it's over.
You do not lose them.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to build.
URLs. I feel like there's a gazillion URLs where people can go to check you out. We've got this site up here. Where should people go just to...
If you want to be plugged into everything we're really doing, it's behindtheshutter.com.
Behindtheshutter.com.
Yeah.
Everything you're doing is there.
Everything we're doing is there.
Is there a blog there? We can come up with your
blog,
daily antics.
Yeah, all my antics.
Do you blog in there?
I don't. I'm the introvert, so you're lucky I'm talking right now.
Awesome. They're lucky. All right, guys. Well, thank you both for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure for having both of you on here.
Yes, same here.
All right, guys. That's it for this session of the Lumix Lounge Live at WPPI 2015. I'm Frederick Van Johnson. We'll see you in the next video.